everybody. Welcome back to Psychedelics Today. This is Joe Moore coming at you from Breckenridge, Colorado. Today on the show, we have Andy Frasco. Andy Frasco is a touring rock musician in a band called Andy Frasco and the UN. First bumped into him at a music festival and was immediately shocked by the amount of energy he was putting out. And it also appeared as though he was taking gifts from the audience and consuming them right away. So I was kind of fascinated to say, okay, I'm a person that's interested in this drug topic, so let's see what's going on. So I definitely saw him live a bunch more times and was able to catch up with him in his hotel room just right down the street here from me in Breckenridge in Frisco, Colorado. He and I had been trying to link up to record for potentially almost 10 months or so since we met at this music festival last year. So it was cool. I really enjoyed being able to sit down with Andy. I really like what he does. I like his music. I like his stage persona. Just like him in general. So this episode is going to be a little different because what we're going to talk about is what is it like to be a touring rock musician when there's a lot of drugs around and a lot of temptation, and how do you tour more healthfully? How do you live more healthfully and do it well? And we get into a lot of that because there's a lot of unhealthy touring rock musicians right now and just musicians in general. So yeah, that's kind of the story there. So there, trigger warning, there's some potty language and some foul language and, potentially some adult subject matter. So if you don't want to hear it, please, don't listen to this episode. Maybe just skip around a little bit near the beginning and the end. There is some talk of sex and drugs, and I don't want you to get uncomfortable in case you don't want to hear about it. So I think it's relevant though, because it's real life, and this is someone's lived experience. And I actually was a little nervous, so I listened to the whole episode over the other day, and which is not something I usually do, and I was pretty happy with it. I think we covered a lot of ground. We clarified a number of things, and hopefully you like it. And if you don't like it, at least go listen to Andy Frasco's music, Andy Frasco and the UN on Spotify or wherever else. And he's got a great podcast called Andy Frasco's World Saving Podcast. It's super fun. He's got a lot of great musicians on there, and I think he's doing a great service to the touring musician world, because a lot of people just get into these unhealthy spirals and they don't know what to do. Like, you're on the road doing 200 plus shows a year. How do you make time for a therapist? Especially if you're staying up till 3-4 in the morning every day and you got to rush to the next show and all that kind of shit. It's like a really hard scenario. Perhaps microdosing is a solution, a part of a solution. Certainly microdosing is not a complete solution, but it might help alleviate some symptoms for some people sometimes. So, and same with macrodosing. It's, unless it's paired with therapy, we can't really promise that we're going to get too much of a result. So yeah, that's, what do they call it? Sciencey people call this naturalistic use. What does use of a psychedelic look like in the wild? Outside of a hospital setting. We get into that. Hospital setting. Therapeutic setting. Yeah, so, and we get into the idea of, is recreation therapeutic or not? What we might consider classically recreational use or celebratory use. What is that? Is there a benefit? Is there a net positive to the individual? I think the answer is sometimes, and if done skillfully. But I don't think we have firm conclusions on that yet in the data, but that's my sneaking suspicion. So anyway, yeah, again, trigger warning, careful out there if you don't like foul language or slightly sexually explicit content, you might want to steer away. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. I really had a great time recording with Andy. I really hope we get to record again. And I really just hope people can be a little bit happier. All these musicians, like their job, they're entertainers, they're performers, and they're performing for you, the people, and they care about what you think. And flipping the roles a little bit, like maybe you care that your favorite musicians are doing okay psychologically. They're getting the treatment they need, stuff like that. Like the healthier they are, perhaps the better their music can be, and perhaps the longer they can stay alive. Like somehow Keith Richards is still alive, but he's probably more the exception than the rule. Anyway, okay. Quick shout out to our sponsors, onnit.com. Use the code PSY today, to get 10% off of everything there, from food, supplements, clothes, everything but fitness equipment like weights and whatnot. And I've used their products a lot, love it. I would exclusively use their products if I could, and I plan to buy a whole bunch. I've used their multivitamins, their sports supplements for cordyceps. I guess that's like a performance enhancing mushroom in a lot of ways. And then I use one called Strongbone because I crash on my snowboard sometimes, and sometimes a supplement to perhaps make my bones stronger would help. And there's other stuff for mood. New Mood is a cool product they've got. Check that out. I've used that a bunch. Initially, I think designed as a product to ease the transition or next day after using MDMA. I've used it a bunch without MDMA and with, and it works out pretty well as a post-care supplement and just on a day-to-day, kind of like rounds out the edges. Sometimes your brain just needs a little bit of extra fuel, and you can do really well there. They've also got some fish oil and krill oil, stuff like that, to keep your bones from getting creaky. So check it out. Again, onnit.com. Very high quality stuff. Use the code PSY today to get 10% off checkout. And also brought to you by Audible. If you like audiobooks, this is the thing to do. If you haven't tried audiobooks, here's your chance. Go to psychedelicstoday.com/welcome. We have a link there for a 30-day free trial. You get a free audiobook. Pick something nice. I think anything. They've got books that are pretty expensive up there and pretty affordable. Maybe go for one that's like $15 to $30 in range, just so you're getting a bargain for your free deal. The book Mescaline by Mike J is incredible. That's one that Kyle and I have read, and I loved it. Hopefully we'll get him on the show soon. There's some Terrence McKenna up there. There's the Michael Pollan book. What's it called? Sorry, Michael, I forgot your show name or book name. Something about mind. Anyway, that's a great one. There's all sorts of books from like Greek myth to Chinese myth, and Joseph Campbell. There's all sorts of philosophers up there. So if you are in the market for an audiobook subscription, check it out and help us out at the same time. Again, you can get to your 30-day free trial at psychedelicstoday.com/welcome. All right, that's it for this intro. Enjoy this very cool and very different interview with Andy Frasco, and let me know what you think. Email us at psychedelicstoday@gmail.com. All right, bye-bye, everybody. Enjoy. I've only used it like 6 times.
What, this is Zoom?
Yeah. Usually I got like an interface and like Skype and fucking everything going.
It's the future, doggy.
Yeah, man. It's pretty tight.
The future.
So
Zoom's kind of like psychedelics in a way.
Yeah.
You could travel with them now. I could, you don't have to it's not a recreational thing. You can just use them for your daily purposes.
So that's what I wanted to talk to you about. So, Psychedelics Today, Andy Frasco.
What's up?
Rock musician, and you're
That's
bringing rock
me.
back. Andy's got a podcast.
Trying to fucking bring rock and roll and podcasts into this community here.
What's it called? A world-saving podcast? Andy Frasco's world-saving podcast.
Andy Frasco's world-saving podcast.
Tight.
Dude, we're all trying to save the world, even you, with talking about psychedelics and how it copes with therapy and how it copes with stigmas, and I'm fucking appreciate all your help. You're another soldier on the campaign to freeing our minds with whatever what other bullshit we have in it for today. You know, we overthink everything, don't we?
Absolutely.
I was just going through that too. Like I'm on that stint where I'm not taking psychedelics for a week. You know, because festival season's hard for me because I just do them every night. And
yeah, dude, that's all summer.
And it's all. And I didn't realize how many fucking festivals we did this summer until my brain's like, cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. Take a break.
Yeah, at least 1 week.
Oh,
it's hilarious.
No, yeah, it's crazy. But like, sometimes you microdose.
I've tried microdoses, so that's actually a topic for us.
Well, we're gonna talk microdosing.
Let's get into it. So, like, I have never gone through like a full microdosing thing, like 6 weeks. And a lot of people do it.
6 weeks.
6 weeks is what people is. So you do 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 6 weeks on.
What every day?
Every 3 days.
Yeah. So 3 and
at if you're doing mushrooms, it'd be like 1/10 of a gram to 3/10 of a gram, and if you feel it, that's more of a macro dose. So
explain micro and macro. You're gonna be my dentist or my brain dentist. It is kind of like my brain dentist.
Where's my dentist? So
what's the difference?
Micro, small, macro, big.
Yeah, but like, what's the difference in brain activity? Have they studied that?
So minimal, really minimal. So the very first research study is coming up in New Zealand with LSD microdosing, where it's actually like government approved LSD for the research. No research has really been done in decades on small doses.
Yeah.
There's a lot of research in like the 50s and 60s, but nothing really, and no brain imaging to speak of on microdoses.
Yeah.
Consensus is it's pretty good. So like, do you know Paul Stamets, the mushroom guy?
Love Paul Stamets.
So he's a badass. He's pretty much made mushrooms popular.
He'd be great for this show.
You should get Paul Stamets.
Yeah, well, I'm talking for you, doggy.
Oh yeah,
Psychedelics
for
today.
Sure.
I mean,
I met him a few times. He's like into remediating ecosystems with mushrooms from like oil spills or cow shit. He's really into.
Well, he has this weird philosophy
psychedelia.
That aren't we evolved through mushrooms? Like,
there's a theory
that we
stoned ape theory.
Yeah, that the mushrooms or the apes ate. 90% of their food content was mushrooms. So if that is it, 15-20% had to been psilocybin, right?
There's a chance. So I like it. It's hard as shit to prove.
How so?
So like we didn't have video cameras, and like the mushrooms didn't really leave a mark on like bone structure or fossils really. So
are there any mushrooms that did?
Not really. But even 4,000 years ago, there was definitely dudes walking around with psychedelics in their pouches, for sure. Like drugs have been around for a long time. Mm-hmm. As soon as you find something that changes your mind a little bit, you're going to hang on to it, like booze, whatever. You're going to like, all right, this is pretty cool. I'm going to hang on to this. It's better than eating squirrels again. Mm-hmm. Whatever they ate. I don't know.
Well, plant-based, I mean, that's how we're going to stay alive, I think, in the next 100 years.
So like there is some good shit about regrowing brain stuff from macro and micro doses. So gray matter, not necessarily gray matter, but neurons. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely like studies in places like Japan that study mushrooms, and they're like, oh look, this lion's mane mushroom is actually growing nerve cells back, and they look more structured and therefore probably better. And we think the same with psilocybin. So Paul
What are we
Stamets,
learning from psilocybin?
Lots.
Be my teacher.
Makes music better.
Well, totally. But like, how is it working with PTSD and chemical imbalances and
right?
Is it
so? Like science as a whole, super immature. Like we're only like 50 to 100 years into science, and really 40 years, like given like advances in science. So what it's doing for PTSD, like let's talk results. Like really, actually, is there I don't know that there's actually a PTSD study with psilocybin right now. There's treatment-resistant depression, which is just like a little lower. So you tried a couple things and it didn't work. You're still depressed.
Isn't ketamine or
ketamine for depression for sure.
What about not Molly? What's the right word for that?
MDMA.
Bro, I'll take a Molly, dude. Get her through our MDMA. No, but
so that's what MAPS is doing. Is MDMA for PTSD?
That's what
for treatment
I've been
resistant
seeing those
PTSD.
studies.
And that's at like 80. The number is something like 75 to 85% of people who went through the program don't have PTSD anymore.
Wow.
And they've had it for years and tried a lot of stuff. And this is 3 sessions with MDMA with therapists, plus a bunch of therapy before and after. I would expect similar results with psilocybin. But
like how? Through the retuning of your brain, or reprogramming.
Here's the neuroscience of what we think is happening, and these are all like hypotheses. Like there's so many different angles you could take on this shit. So like the neuroscience one is that we have these brain regions talking to each other, and over time the brain regions get a little crazy. Like you start, washing your hands 30 times a day, or like compulsively drinking or whatever, and you get these habits, and they are just like hardwired almost in your nervous system. And the psychedelics disrupt that and make a hyper-connected brain. Have you seen those images?
Yep.
Yeah. So Google that, like brain connectivity psilocybin people, and you can see like some really cool images of, hyperconnectivity. So when you come out of that, the theory goes that your brain goes back into a more natural state, like as if you were a child. Thus,
while it's like the learning state.
Kind of, yeah. We're curious again. We like things again.
So it's just basically your brain stop being fucking stubborn with your routine.
Kind of, yeah.
I mean, I feel like I go through things like, is that the same concept with OCD?
Right, exactly.
So what is the difference between anxiety and OCD?
It's all kind of like habits, right?
Yeah.
Like dysfunction happens to everything. Like if you want to think of us as machines, shit just gets broken after a while. Gunk gets in there, and we need to go in and clean shit up. Like I'm now, freaking out, worried about my career and taxes. Like when I didn't used to give a fuck.
No, like hold on.
That was just an example. Let's
talk about that. I know I'm the guest here, but what freaks you out about taxes and being an adult?
Well, last year I had a meltdown because my taxes were fucked. I had to go hire like 2-3 people to help sort me out. It was
why are you like?
Because
what are you making money on? What are you making money on? Are you an independent contractor?
Selling drugs? No, just kidding. No, I have a software career.
Okay.
I run like a big tech support group, kind of work from home, but I'm not too worried about it. I just don't like it. This is
did it
way more
stress
interesting.
you out?
Only that I'm hiding this from them.
Hiding what from who?
Psychedelics Today.
That you have 2 jobs?
Right. Well, yeah, more so that I'm talking about this taboo subject that could probably get me fired.
Oh, really?
I think so, yeah.
What?
So I admit to doing drugs on the show all the time, and
and they're all
yeah, they're big corporation like
that's I mean, you're fucking rolling the wire. Maybe just don't give a fuck about that other job anymore.
Just wait till they fire me or something. It doesn't matter. Yeah,
Do you think that's how anxiety works?
You're worried about the future when you don't necessarily need to be worried about, like, the Papadozio dude you had on the other day. He was talking about meditation, mindfulness, all this. Super into that stuff.
Yeah.
But he was like kind of describing how you're worried about something, all these possibilities that you don't even know if they exist or not, and it didn't even happen. When you could be worried about, like, how do I get a better sandwich or something in 5 minutes? Like, more immediate concern is probably more relevant.
Do you think that's why people are scared to take psychedelics? They don't want to change how they feel?
They're worried. It's just such a profound shift. It's like it opens you up to the possibility that everything you know is wrong. It's like a Terence McKenna line. I'm sure you know Terence McKenna.
Yeah, but wouldn't you want to know now that everything's wrong? Then
well, that's why they made the Matrix, right?
What?
That's why they made the Matrix. It's like the same storyline. It's like you could know not necessarily the truth, but a lot more about the illusions than you do now.
So now on psychedelics, how do you feel about the truth?
Well, it's a burden, but it's way better than, in my opinion, being lied to. But I can understand why people want to be lied to.
What do you think people are being lied to about?
Everything.
Like what?
Like for me, everything's a fraud for the most part. So
shit.
Yeah, dude, it's just ugly. So you do too many psychedelics, you end up potentially like me.
Talk to a therapist?
I've gone to a therapist a bunch of times.
How'd it go?
It was decent. It was helpful. This one guy was like an old man, like 75, And I thought he was the best. He was just like, buck up, and like gave me some man talk. And I was like, oh, maybe that's really all I needed. Kicked me in the ass. And I've done a lot of this holotropic breath work. Have you heard of this? No. Tripping through breathing.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been doing that since 2003. And that's been my main like therapy medicine deal.
So it's like big, deep breaths. Like
you're just moving more air than normal to super loud music from like eclectic sources.
I heard about this.
And my most intense experience was as intense as my ayahuasca experience.
Mm-hmm.
And
why?
it was,
what part of it?
Just the bulk of the thing. So the workshops the breathing's usually like a 3-hour stretch.
Yeah.
Mine went 5. And I was in
5-hour stretches of breathing.
Yeah. And
Are
being
you
in a full on
present?
Visionary state and just like
tripping. Hallucinating?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I was
what
were you hallucinating?
Blasting. Well, so my body knew what to expect. I laid down. I like led the group meditation because I was still in training at that point, and like this is usually done in groups. And I
you're
lay
training
down.
These guys?
I'm trained to do this. Yeah, I was like shaking as I'm laying down. I put my head down, and I'm not even accelerating my breathing. I'm in a full-on like hallucinatory state. And I'm blasting through a burning world, being supported by like this infinitely long female tongue or something. Just like slip and slide, but like everything.
Were you on anything else?
And safe. No, man. No. This is like really before I was doing even drugs recreationally.
So what made you do something like this? Were you not feeling good?
Oh, dude. I did a philosophy degree. I found out about psychedelics in my philosophy 101 course, and it was talking about like psychedelic assisted therapy, and the story looked like The Exorcist or Poltergeist or something. And this woman was then healed from her outrageous addiction and traumas. And
taking what?
LSD.
Mm-hmm.
This is in like Soviet Prague way back, probably early 60s, with Dr. Stangroff, who like kind of pioneered a lot of LSD work.
Have you read that Michael Pollan book?
Yeah, it was decent. He did an okay job. Yeah, I'm
for a guy who didn't, who wasn't really into drugs.
What did you think of it?
It was okay. I thought it was. It made me have more hope that we're just not addicted to these psychedelics. That people who are not even into drugs are seeing psychedelics as a way to help cure their anxious thoughts or help cure PTSD, and so that gave me hope that I'm not just a drug addict. I guess, you know? I'm
addicted to mushrooms.
I mean, you know, like I woke up like this summer, I'm like, damn, I'm very open with who I am and what I do on stage, and I take drugs every show or mushrooms on stage. I don't really fuck with anything else. I don't do coke or anything, but yeah, I'm like, wow, maybe my brain needs this, because I remember when I've had my 3 days off and I was just more anxious than I was when I wasn't on them.
Right. It's like at a certain point you're developing new habits.
Yeah.
And like shortcuts in your brain. You're like, okay, I'm ready for more mushrooms now. What's happening?
Mm-hmm.
But daily, like consistent use without breaks. Like I would advise like a month once in a while off.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, mushrooms are the safest drug ever.
Mm-hmm.
People will be furious that I use the word drug, but for real, like safest drug ever.
You know what's I've been fucking getting super anxiety from? It's weed.
Mm-hmm.
As I get older.
It amplifies. It is psychedelic. It amplifies what's going on for you.
It triggers. I mean, it like when you're in a triggered state or a triggered form of anxiety, and you know, that's one thing that was great about the mushrooms though. When I'm in that triggered form of anxiety, mushrooms let you open up and say, you're not going to run away. You're going to fight this anxiety and figure out why you're anxious.
Yeah.
You know, and that was one thing. I'm too scared to take LSD on a microdose level. It's too, maybe, what do you think? What's the difference between a microdose LSD and a microdose
Depends
psilocybin?
on if you really mean, so the way I say microdose is you don't feel it.
Yeah.
And if you're not feeling it, there's no difference.
Okay.
So the data that's out there, microdosing either, the same. Like there's no difference according to the researchers. So
What about 0.5 of a gram? Is that macro or micro?
I would start to feel it. So I'd be
Yeah.
like, but a lot of people want to feel it. Like, I don't think there's something wrong with doing drugs really ever. Like, and unless you're addicted and you want treatment, you can't figure that out. Like, that's when there's a problem. But everything else I think is fine.
Yeah, I have this hippie woman who sends me pills once a month, and it's, it depends
It's
on.
a good connect.
Yeah, she's great, and she's she's opened my eyes to psychedelics because I'm such a control freak. I first didn't think of psychedelics to help me cope with anxiety. I thought of it as a way to have a good fucking weekend, and to open your eyes to that this is actually medicine, and you don't need to take all these fucking psycho. Well, some people need them, like the
right. Let's not shame psych meds, but a lot of people get on them and they hate it. They're like, "Fuck these psych meds. I hate this."
Well, yeah, some people. I mean,
but some people really need it.
I did this documentary. Oh, for sure. I mean, I did this documentary for HBO called The Great Depression, and Gary Goldman. I did all the music for it with Judd Apatow produced and stuff. And
badass.
Gary Goldman, had to go to the psych ward, and he opened my eyes, saying like, some people need this type of medicine because not all of it is bad. We have this bad stigma about medication. They think that once we take medication, we're crazy. Like, that's silly.
Your life's over. You're on psych meds.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's so silly. That's such a bad stigma to have for mental health. Like, why? Just because you're trying to help help your brain out to figure out how to get through life, don't fucking. People have this bad stigma about mental health now.
It's really ugly.
And it's sad because, like, that's the only part of that you're truly alone, and you can't have a good communication when you're alone like that. You're going to get fucked down the line.
Stacks up.
It stacks up, and you suppress, and you can't talk to anyone else about it because they think like, oh, snap out of it, That's what Gary says. Like the millennials are more sympathetic to how people, how their minds work. But like Gen X and stuff, they're like, what do you got to be depressed about? Or that's like the ultimate medication. Or like, snap out of it. Like, God, fuck no, I don't know how to snap out of it.
Yeah,
you need.
exactly.
We're all trying to figure out life. It's hard. Life is fucking. It's a weird mystery. Like you said, you're in this fucking weird transition in your fucking quest to find inner peace. We all are. I am too. I mean, I'm at a point in my career where like I made it to where I saw my dreams at 13. And now I'm trying to figure out where do I go now? So
this is a big crisis. Like, imagine the lawyer that makes it to this point at 35 and they're like, what the fuck do I do now?
Yeah,
I hate this.
Yeah,
but thankfully, I hope it's still something you love, and it seems
I
like
love
it is.
it, but it's a mind fuck. Because like, it's like I'm doing 250 shows a year,
it's a lot.
And then you wake up one day saying, "Why am I working so hard? I'm here. I made it. Why do I still have to feel like I have to work so hard?
Where's my Vegas residency?
Yeah, or where's my like we think that we're gonna. It's the theory of, oh, once I get something, I'm going to be happy. Or once I get to this point in my life, I'm going to be happy. Well, all of a sudden you get there and you still feel like shit. And you still have this weird cloud that walks over you. Well, how can we... It's a false narrative. It's like, that's just saying that you're relying on someone else to make you happy or some other thing. Like, oh, once I get a girlfriend, I'll be happy. Or once I buy this house, or once I make $1 million. Like, well, you make $1 million. Now what? You still feel like shit until you figure out the better relationship you have with your mind. And that's why I think psychedelics could help if we take it seriously. And,
So let's talk about, like, you're pretty public about how you've used mushrooms to help you with a lot of things. Like, how do you... Is it only really in the last 6 months, or has it been a while that you've been kind of noticing that you feel a lot better when you're eating mushrooms? Or
I think it's been a couple years now. It's been like 2 years where I had this big panic attack and I didn't know what the fuck it was. And I knew I've had these before when I was a kid. I'm super anxious. I'm super hyper. kind of like an only child in a sense, where my sisters are 8 and 9 and 10 years older than me. So not 8, 9, and 10, 8, 6 and 8. I don't know why I said 8, 9, and 10, but one of them's 6 years, one of them's 8 years. And so I was basically an only child. So I was playing with myself, and just like having this imagination, and, and every like 6 years I'd have this like existential crisis. I'm like, and I didn't know what it was.
When was your first one?
I was 12.
That's big.
Yeah, because it triggered me into having sex with everybody. I think I got heartbroken. I didn't know what heartbreak was, and I finally went for a girl, and she did not. She didn't. Kids are mean, and I got. I was chubbier back then and stuff. So I guess I don't know. I'm not who I thought I was. I'm very confident in myself, and sometimes your confidence in some things is maybe not how the world perceives it. But I remember I was crying and stuff, and I'm like, I will never give my heart out again. And then I started fucking everything for like 10 years, and then I got addicted to sex because that was the clutch. Mm-hmm. And then through that, I found out through the multiple one night stands and meaningless sex. I woke up one day, I didn't feel that. That didn't get me high anymore. And then I had to figure out, well, it's like the same thing. Like, I'm in this crisis where, like, at first I started playing music to fuck chicks, like any young kid with the rock and roll
DJ
gene.
Situation.
What?
Is that when you were starting DJing way back?
Well, I wanted to be in the music industry because artists got chicks.
You got a lot of positive attention, right?
Positive attention, or just like everyone wanted. They were the cool kids. Like the rock stars were cool, and like I wanted to be that, and I didn't want to work on anything else. I just wanted to be that persona. Mm-hmm. And that only could last for so long until you come down this path where, like, well, you're getting anxiety now every day because you think you're getting everyone pregnant. And like, that's my biggest fear is like baby phobia. At a certain
point, you got 80 kids.
Yeah, or like in your mind, you have 80 kids. You might have pulled out or fucking wore a condom or something, but in your mind, if we don't release these stigmas of what is causing you to smoke a pack of cigarettes a day, what is causing you to have a one-night stands, what is causing you to do coke every night, if we don't know that, we're just going to keep fucking doing them until you're depleted. And then once you get in that hole, it's very hard to climb out because you've been suppressing feelings for so long. So like I've always kept everything in. I'm pretty shy when it comes to my personal life, So I took mushrooms and I started talking to my friends, and I started and realizing that we're all the fucking same. We're all fighting these stigmas because we're afraid to be the people we want to be because society makes us, I think, well, I'm 31. How old are you?
37 maybe.
37. So I grew up right in that social media stage.
Shit.
Like right in middle school.
I had a few years off.
Yeah, right in middle school. I was on Live
Damn.
And so I was one of the first gens.
It was like the tail end of my high school.
Yeah, Live. Yeah. And then I got into, then it was Facebook in high school, and then it was text messaging, and then it was group chats, and then Instagram. I mean, like, when you're in a group chat with a bunch of fucking insecure kids and you try to tell a joke that isn't funny, you're going to get ripped. And it makes you fucking go back into your bubble. It's like the same thing with social media. Like, when you have a bad day and you express it, everyone's like, ooh, you shouldn't do that. No. So mushrooms made me wake up and say, yeah, I should do that. I should talk about this. I should have a talk show that's figuring out your stigmas and how can we together try to understand it. It's tough. Yeah. I mean, mushrooms help me. I think mushrooms help me communicate.
That's one of the things Terrence McKenna, back to stoned ape theory. It's like, it just makes languaging happen. Mm-hmm. You like give somebody a big enough dose, they're just making syllables.
Yeah.
which is pretty weird to see. I don't know if you've seen that yet, but it's interesting.
So they think psilocybin created language?
That's Terence McKenna's theory.
I could see it.
His books are super cool.
Have you listened to music on hallucinogens?
Have I ever?
You know, do you
man.
feel like you know, like it's like
right.
It's that universal. It's that vessel, that passageway, and I think that's in anything. I mean, I agree with that. Where, what did McKenna say? Was it psilocybin or was it? Because
it was particularly these mushrooms like cubensis. Do you know the name psilocybe cubensis?
No, tell me.
That's what they're called.
Yeah, cubensis. Yeah,
psilocybe cubensis is like the Latin name.
But so why is there a stigma that these things are still bad for you? If like,
well, let's go back, way back, time machine. So like the West, for the most part, mycophobic, just afraid of mushrooms. So like a lot of fairy tales have shit about, you know, mushrooms being bad for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think in Germany and Russia and probably some other kind of like Eastern Euro stuff, there was a lot of mushroom culture, but it didn't really make it to like France and England, which is kind of like the origins of our culture here. And then fast forward to like William Randolph Hearst making cannabis illegal way back to protect his money. So he did a whole like race thing. Like those Mexicans are bad because they're smoking marijuana and making white women pregnant. And so that was like literally the kind of shit he was putting up in the news.
Just to keep Mexicans controlled?
I think he needed a scapegoat. So he had a lot of money tied up in like lumber to like print his newspapers.
Mm-hmm.
So and hemp potentially was conflicting with that.
Yeah. That's all it is, business.
Largely. And then, you know,
bullshit.
Fast forward to like the Nixon years, they started putting out drug war stuff. Like nobody knew about mushrooms until like the 50s when kind of like Leary and a bunch of people went down to Mexico to try them out and then told everybody. So when the 60s started getting really volatile and like the Black Panthers were getting a lot of power and the hippies were getting a lot of power, the normal government in the middle of the Vietnam War wasn't feeling comfortable. So they needed to make a new enemy, and it was the Black Panthers and Tim Leary. And that's
anything
when
they did, they're gonna
yeah. So Leary was enemy number one of the country, and as a result, psychedelics.
The war on drugs.
That's really when the war on drugs got super ramped up and super well funded. Like it happened. Like I'm glossing over decades of like black oppression with heroin and whatever else, but so that was really kind of the origins, man, and it's been perpetuated to the point where we're in a really ugly kind of end stages of the drug war scenario with cartels and prisons and everything else.
Well, yeah. Do you think they're ever going to stop? Do you think we'll ever legalize drugs?
That's what I'm pushing for, but a lot of folks are just starting with plants. Like, how do we do mushrooms first in Denver, then Oakland, all psychedelic plants, or all plants are now legal.
I want to go back to this idea of you talking about all this shit when you're afraid to talk about it. Or where you're you have a job that you're I mean you're like why have that job?
Money. if it wasn't a lot of money, I wouldn't care. If it was like, you know,
but is that the same concept as people you know, this American dream of having, you know, doing a job that they don't really want to do just because it's so we're just we're building our own stigma.
Totally. Yeah, like I'm wrapping myself up in some shit, but I'm almost at the point. Psychedelics today within 2 years will be my full-time job. But how else am I going to afford jam crews, you know?
Yeah, it's expensive.
Pay those artists.
Yeah, you gotta get that tech money. But it's like it's deeper than that. You know, it's like why are we afraid to be who we want to be?
Mm-hmm.
Is it because they're trying to control us?
Well, actually, I wanted to back up to two things. So you were talking about like sex addiction, and perhaps that was compensation for your breakup. It sounds like it was literally that.
Oh, no. I never had a girlfriend.
Oh, that first heartbreak?
First heartbreak was just, I was vulnerable. I got this, I gave this girl some of my mom's jewelry.
Oh, shit.
And she like threw it on the ground and stomped on it and like ran away like fucking evil bitch. Like, oh, dude. So those things you keep in your head or you keep deep down like, oh, I'll never do that again. You know?
Have you heard of attachment theory?
No.
So it talks about like different types of attachment and how that relates to mental health. And it starts like at your home growing up, because if as an infant or as a small child, you're not attached appropriately, you die, like in nature. Like go back 6,000 years, that's what that shit looked like.
Yeah.
So, fast forward to today and, family attachments, like that's healthy shit. But sometimes that creates dysfunctional situations in your head. And the way you play out your life is then informed by that. So for instance, like that heartbreak could have made you feel wildly insecure in your life. And I think that's what a lot of the teen years are. You're just super insecure about everything.
Yeah.
And you wish you had something to hold on to. But your parents are like, parents kind of disconnect at around like 12, 13 a little bit.
Yeah.
Where they should.
And you see your relationships through your parents. Like my parents have been together, but, throughout my whole childhood, they didn't like each other. I didn't see it like my dad drank a lot. My mom stayed at home, didn't really work, so she was bored. And when my dad came home, he was drunk, so they didn't build a relationship. So I see this like, what's the point of having a relationship just to have a relationship? Is it because of loneliness? Do we feel like we're just having relationships to be alone? Or
right, that was modeled for you, and that's now imprinted in you.
Yeah.
So associated with that is shame. And I think in our culture, like having a lot of sex says like, oh, look at me, I'm like a powerful person and I can have all the sex I want as a guy. I don't know if ladies think the same, but you should maybe. I don't know. But
I bet they do.
You do you.
No, I bet they do.
Yeah. What are we at, 30?
Well, you keep going.
So shame then, is a huge influence on our relationships to other people and, shyness. Like I was a chubby kid growing up and I had a lot of shame about it for some reason. And I think it was related to earlier attachment issues. And then that later fed into like a lot of drinking that I was doing in my 20s. So it just covers up that shame. You're like, look at me, I can drink 30 beers and it's cool. But is it?
Yeah.
But at least it covers that up,
Yeah.
And we're using Carl Hart, this Columbia psychology professor, amazing guy. He spoke at this conference in Manhattan. He mainly studies drug use, and his line was almost everything. The majority of effects from drug use are positive for people.
Yeah.
And he's talking across the board. And there's like a few subset of issues that are bad. And really what is like hitting us with this whole addiction thing is shame. Like we can't get clean because we can't talk to people about our heroin problems or pill problems. And, the news makes you feel like you're the worst person in the world if you've got a pill problem.
Yeah.
And you just can't get help. And
they're the ones who gave it to us.
In a lot of ways, yeah. You ever had fentanyl? Hard question. I've had fentanyl maybe 5 times.
You snorted it?
No. I had it in the hospital, like IV.
Okay.
So like,
I didn't know fentanyl. I don't know why. Yeah, I'm not really into uppers, but I don't know why. But fentanyl is like an opiate, right?
It's a hardcore opiate. Yeah.
So
super concentrated.
So why is it expensive? Why are people putting
Super
fentanyl
expensive.
on the coke and the heroin?
So we don't 100% know, but based on everything I've read, it's really just drug dealers aren't selling one thing. Well, heroin and coke would be a separate thing. A lot of heroin users actually want heroin with fentanyl in it because it gives a higher kick.
So people are just getting they're adapting to heroin,
but not
so they need something
exclusively.
stronger.
There's a lot of heroin addicts that would actually prefer non-fentanyl laced, but in certain regions, you'll see heroin users like trying to buy it with fentanyl. If they find out like Red's got fentanyl laced stuff or stronger fentanyl laced stuff, they'll go for that. But I tried to use that heroin, we'd die right away. But because they're adapted, they can handle higher levels.
Why do you think people get addicted to shit like that?
I've been thinking about addiction a lot lately. It's a hard topic. But I think you kind of laid out a lot of the groundwork at the beginning. It's covering it. First off, it makes you feel good. You've got some shit going on in your life and shame, so you're gonna like keep doing it. Like addiction is a whole field. Like you can get addicted to anything from like buying. One of the top psychedelic doctors, Gabor Mate out of Vancouver, he talks about his addiction buying classical music on vinyl. He hides it for decades, hiding it from his wife. It almost got them a divorce, I think. He writes about in his books. And it's something about not being able to express who you are and be comfortable with that. And but there's so many other factors. Like humans are really diverse in a lot of ways. Like you could have grown up in a Chinese family versus a Jewish family or Irish family, and you got some weird shit in each one of those, and your own special kind of shame and family dynamics. And like in my kind of like Irish world, alcoholism is like taught to you. Yeah, here you go.
Same here.
Have fun with this alcohol problem.
Italians
cool.
like that too.
It's a lot of booze. I'm thankful I didn't get super into hard liquor until recently.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm thankful I didn't start drinking, or I didn't smoke weed. I didn't do anything until I was like 19, 20.
What was your first psychedelic drug?
Mushrooms. 18. I took fucking eighth, and it was all of us at my parents' house. My parents were gone, so I had like 15 guys. It was a fun house. I watched my buddy shit himself. I don't know if I was tripping out or not, but I see him. I was just like, this is not happening. Like I had the worst. It was beautiful, and then I have these like dark moments in the trip. Like I'm like, it kind of freaked me out to take more than you should. Like, why are we doing that to our brains? And then it fucked me up because now maybe it helped me because now all I do is microdose. I'm never gonna take I'll try not to take too much. You know, yeah, but it's the same thing. You don't know what too much is until it's too much, and then you're fucked sometimes. You know, it's like I did that with Coke. I was really into Coke because I was just trying to stay up. I was, you know, it was part of my career where I don't get to have like my own hotel room and stuff, and I had to fucking sleep on people's couches, and I did that for 10 years every day. Like we would do like 81 shows in 100 days, and I'd be so exhausted. I'd take ecstasy to wake up, and I would take Coke all night, and then I'd have to do a fucking radio interview, or I had to like talk to my parents. So I just didn't want me to sound like I was strung out, so I'd take happy pills, like a little bit of ecstasy, like, hey, nothing happened. I think that's what made me sad nowadays, because I fucking depleted all my serotonin.
Right. Does ecstasy work for you now? Does MDMA work?
I don't take it anymore. Okay. I don't take anything that feels like it's speed.
All right.
So maybe if I went to like get some pure MDMA, maybe I'll try it. But like I have this PTSD about I had this theory.
You were using a lot. You should have.
Yeah, I was like, you know, 3 years ago I would, you know, fuck 10 girls a week and do maybe 2 grams of Coke a night, and I would drink a bottle of Jameson a night. I'm just like suppressing my feelings because this is what it takes to be in a band.
You were this exhausted that you were.
I was coping my exhaustion with drugs and alcohol, and I wasn't helping the exhaustion. I was making it worse because I couldn't feel it. So, and it fucked me up 3 years ago. And
were there positive role models, like people that went to sleep right away or anything?
No, my whole band partied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it like all these guys, Ernie and all them?
Everyone's in it. They're partying.
Yeah.
Doing blow. You know, Ernie's the only guy who doesn't do blow, but I don't know. Like, we don't, you know, he drinks a lot. He suppresses. He'll he drinks a lot, and it's just always around. When you're in a band, you're the party one day a year for each city. So you don't realize that, like, the other side of that spectrum is I'm going to have to party every single day. And I was, at first I was fine with it because it's fucking, my philosophy of why I was doing music in the first place was like, fuck chicks and fucking be accepted, be liked, you know? So now that I'm past that in my life, I'm trying to figure out a path that's healthier.
So we're really deep into this interview right now, but people, I don't think, have a context for what you do on stage. And it's like one of the most impressive, like, energy fueled things I think I've ever seen on stage. Like, I walked in, the first time I saw you was Jam Cruise, I think your first year. Like, Ernie or the tuba dude had Annabelle, like,
dry humping her and shit.
Oh my God. I was like
stage.
Embarrassed. I think I had to leave.
Just cringe.
But I was like, this is the most intense energy in this small room. And, like, you guys led this party. It's not just a rock show. It's like you're leading a party.
Well, yeah, that's, we going back to what you want to talk about this interview, rock and roll. What's rock and roll? Like, that's the reason why I fell in love. I fell in love with the Iggy Pops of the world and the fucking Mick Jaggers and Led Zeppelin, the stories of Led Zeppelin putting fucking fucking girls with fishes, and girls just like the lifestyle of being a rock star. I mean, like, that's what we're all fascinated with, unless, like, you're, jam scene's a little different. I'm not, they're into the fucking notes and the fucking solo. But, like, for me, I was like,
Fish did plenty of weird stuff.
Oh, I bet.
But I hear
like,
you.
at first.
I hear you.
At first, like, when you're a kid, and you see these rock stars, maybe not now, because I wonder how Generation Z thinks of rock stars, because, like,
do they even, like, I'm trying to think of an act.
Because look at all the Me Too movement going on.
Yeah,
look at all
actually, that's a great point too.
Like, how can if we had cameras in the 70s of our rock stars doing blow and fuck it, like, these could be all, like, the Led Zeppelin story, putting a fish in a girl's vagina, that could be fake, dude. But we don't know, because nowadays everything is recorded. And it's like, the imagination of it all. So, like, I thought of musicians as this fucking epic party all the time. And then I did that, and I'm like,
wasn't what you wanted.
It's not. This is, it's not what I wanted, because it shaped me into who I am now. And I could talk to people, and, like, I could meet, like, it's like, help me with my podcast, because I could have a 2 a.m. conversation with a stranger all fucked up, and we could talk about life. And, like, I'm not trying to say, man, there's the worst times in my life, the party. No, fuck, I had a great fucking time. Yeah. And I met a lot of people. I'm just in that point in my life now where, like, I realize I'm alone in this. I am, like, I could have this relationship with my fans, and great, I love it. But at the end of when the curtains fall and the fucking lights go down, and I'm back to being not my alter ego anymore, I'm about to being just my guy, I have to be good with that too, because you can't live on stage. You only can live on stage for 2 hours a day. What are you gonna do for the other 14 hours if you're dealing with a fucking hangover or a worry that some chick in Omaha, Nebraska might be pregnant? It's too much stress just for that 2 hours of pure bliss of being present. Like, how do we be present for 14 hours a day and not just that 2 hours? Or, like, I love performing, and I wish I could figure out a way to get what I get out of that stage, and what I get out of, like, suppressing all those, like, I'm pretty shy dude when I'm not on stage, and I freaking turn into an animal. It's because I was
animal.
So I was just trying to, so I'm trying to figure out how to have that communication throughout my day with myself. That's why we picked psychedelics.
Right. And I think there's something interesting about podcasting because it allows you to talk to interesting people about interesting things when you would not otherwise have that chance.
Yeah.
And make a difference too. Like there's this whole generation of musicians and DJs that are having very similar situations. They're like party, but what the fuck? And then they eat the end of a gun.
Yeah.
Whatever, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to move to Alaska now, or whatever.
Or it's like figuring out that, you know, the party ends and you have to sleep here by yourself. Think about why you spent that $100 again on that fucking 2 grams of coke when you might have a baby mama or a girlfriend or a family or, you know. And you got to be good with that. You got to be good with yourself after the party or when it's 4 a.m. and you have a 7 a.m. bus call to drive 8 hours where, you know, you're not going to talk to anyone in your band because they're all fucking hungover and shit too. And, you know, it's like, so we, you know, it's like, it's a weird thing. You know, I'm starting to understand why musicians are losing their fucking damn minds because we are so misunderstood, you know?
The industry is not really designed for musicians.
No.
As far as I can tell.
I mean, like, you don't make shit for money unless you do 2,000 fucking shows a year, you know? You're not, and like, you're giving 25% of your money to an agent, a manager who live at home and could go home at 6 p.m. And, you know, then you have all these angst about your manager and you have angst about the booking agent, you know, and because you're giving them maybe $100,000 a year of your money when you're only making maybe $25,000, $10,000, whatever. If you have 20, one of my close homies, Turquoise, they have like 25,000 people in their band.
Every time I see them, I don't know how it works.
Oh
I'm
my
like, what
God.
do you go home with $10,
it must be so
guys?
tough. I mean, like, and they live in Brooklyn. I mean, like, there's all
Not
these
cheap.
things.
Yeah.
And like when you're on the road, you spend money. You know, you only get a certain amount of per diem a year, not a day. So like, normally, you know, like people are getting between $10 to $30 a day for per diem. How are you gonna live off that and not go into the money that you're making from the show money? It's tough. You're fighting with yourself.
So what's the model? Like, how do we... The most comfortable way would be like you've got a nice tour bus or something everybody sleeps on and you don't have to take planes. You don't
but then you have...
that's super expensive.
Okay, then you have your tour bus. That costs $1,800 a day.
That's so
$1,700 a day. Then if you...
It stinks too.
Yeah, it stinks. If, you know, you're cutting costs, you want to live this rock star life. So that means you're cutting costs on hotels. That means you're cutting costs on showering. That means you're relying on the shower that's in the venue. The one shitty shower that your whole fucking band is about to fucking destroy. You know, it's a weird thing. It's like, you get why these people are having fucking breakdowns. Like, it's fucked, or why they're fucking suppressing and taking coke and fucking taking drugs. It's you can't explain it to people because they think you're being soft because you're living your dream, man. You're playing music on the road, you're partying. So like then
humans weren't designed for this.
Humans weren't designed for this. No, you need to chill out. And you need to figure out a way to chill your brain out when you're in the van. That's why like the meditation thing is so good. I think that's why Anthony's got it figured out because he was taking drugs. He was taking synthetic drugs. You know, he was finding drugs online that aren't even tested. Hey, that's cool. Let me try that. Why are we doing that? Because we're fucking suppressing shit.
Do you know how to meditate?
Yeah, on stage. That's my meditation. No, but like, yeah, I'm learning. I do transcendental meditation, and
cool.
It's hard because I'm in my head 10 hours, 12 hours a day. So,
start with a minute, move it up to the 20 they want you to do each time.
Yeah, I want to. It's just tough.
Dude, when you're exhausted, it's hard to like put in extra.
And when you're
Especially on
sleep
tour.
deprived, your brain is working overload to compensate for your unhealthy lifestyle. So when your brain's, you're like, when you're so tired, like I was today, like I haven't slept in like 4 days. I've been flying everywhere and, you know, playing for 3 hours, fucking, then getting in the van and driving through the night. And, getting on an airplane, flying through the night. You know, like you don't have.
Brutal on your body.
It's brutal on your brain.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like you can't. It's tough. That's why you have to really like focus on what you're putting into your body, how much coffee you're taking. Like I used to drink, you know, a whole, you know, big old pot of coffee, and that just built my anxiety even more because, if I'm not sleeping and I'm just trying to stay up on ecstasy and fucking coffee and pussy and fucking, you know, whatever else I could get my hands on to get my, you know, my endorphins or whatever to balance out for that 1 second, or the cigarettes or the pack of cigarettes I smoke. I mean, all you're doing is maintaining. You're not figuring out what's wrong with you.
In addiction, they call that a maintenance user.
A maintenance user. Yeah, dude. That makes sense. See, so it's like I think to get through this, we need to learn how to have a healthier way of touring with musicians.
Is anybody doing it?
Oh fuck yeah, Carl Denson, that homie's like the
He
fountain of
crushes.
youth, dude. That fool's like,
Is he like 80, but he looks like he's 30?
he's like 65, and
He's
he's
so
fucking
amazing.
looks good, dude.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, damn, Carl, you fountain of youth, dog. So, but there's ways to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's what do you want out of the road, you know?
What are your goals and start
Like,
there
do you want
and
to just play
design it?
music? Do you want to party? You want to communicate? You know, like, do you want to, you know, you want to go live on the road so you can like find cool spots to eat? I mean, like, you got to like change your routine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my band parties fucking hard. You know, I shouldn't say that because maybe their girlfriends are listening, but they hit it hard.
Right.
And we all do because we have to. Because, like you said, we're the party band. And when you have that stigma, you don't want to be considered a pussy in front of your fan, or you don't want to be considered fake, which is bullshit. You know, this
It's
like,
tough.
yeah, it's like we have this idea that our fans have this idea that like we got to make them happy all the time when we see them. What if we're going through something? What if like our best friend is not talking to us, or what if our girlfriends fucking hate us right now, or what if I'm sleep deprived, you know, and I might, you know, I don't want to talk to anyone right now. I just want to have my peace with myself. And then you're considered an asshole. So like you see why these guys commit suicide, because they're afraid of being who they are when they have 20 years of doing something. You know, I think change is, could be talking out my ass right now, but I think for me, changing into the next step in my life is very, is hard. You know, it's like when you're turning from 13.
Dying to the old thing and being born to something new.
Being born, reborn.
Yeah.
So
Birth is not super pleasant.
yeah, so I think that's what the helps that psychedelics does, is it speeds up that thing. So you don't want to do that when you're fucking 80 and you can't move and you're tired and you have all these regrets because you just kept on following the same path. You know, I never want to have regret. I don't regret this life I have. I don't want to sound like a fucking like a sobby, you know, guy right now. You know,
Well,
like,
you're
oh,
31.
look at me, look at me.
You have time to figure this shit out, and you're doing it. You're putting in the work to research it.
Yeah.
And like digging in. Why? From what I remember, you haven't done ayahuasca yet.
Haven't done it.
Why?
Like I said, it's like not having control. I'm a control freak.
So a light taste would be like either this breathwork stuff, or if whenever you're like kind of rested 2-3 days off tour, lay down with some headphones on, like 2 grams of mushrooms,
Oh,
and just ride that out for 5 hours.
just ride it out.
Like, yeah, eyes closed, just laying down. Like it's the same deal. It lets your stuff come up. subconscious material that you want access to. It's uncomfortable to let it come up. And like, that's a big thing in the psychedelic world, is like, any world can get perverted. There's even like competitive ego death. Like, I can eat more mushrooms than you, or my ego death was better than your ego death. And
what did Stamets say about the 8 gram, the journey? You know anything
not
about
much.
that?
He was in the top of a tree in a lightning storm.
Yeah.
Just fucked up, but it cured his stutter, and it probably changed his life permanently. So you can do these heroic doses in bed, as long as like,
people do that when they have cancer, like when they're terminally ill and they're trying to accept death.
This is one of the first things they studied LSD and other psychedelics for, was near end of life anxiety.
Fuck.
Right? So there was a lady on 60 Minutes 2-3 weeks ago talking about her stage 4 cancer and how one dose, roughly 5 grams, changed her life for good. And she no longer is afraid of death. She's no longer afraid to live.
Why do you think people are afraid to die?
Dude, it's a big question, but this, you know what it's like to be alive, and you know what yesterday was like, but it's like almost as scary as getting sent to like another galaxy. You know, you don't know what anything's going to happen. Like, it could just be lights out. It could be death. Could be a big DMT trip. Who knows? Have you smoked DMT?
I have. Oh man, I just did it for the like a real trip. Like a month ago. No.
Was it in a pen or a dab rig? Or?
I smoked it out of a pen. I was isolated. I was on this like houseboat yacht, which was super fancy, and we were in Lake Powell. Nice. And it would look like Alien, you know. And like, I just interviewed Billy Strings, and we talked about DMT, and he had this incredible experience about how fucking aliens like whoosh, brought him in, like, "What's up, Billy? Welcome." I'm like, "Oh fuck, I'm down." You know?
Billy's probably an alien.
He could be, yeah. He's pretty. But like, I had that same thing where I saw the spaceship and they wouldn't let me in. I'm like, "Oh fuck."
Coming up against your attachment.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then my self-conscious, the guy who speaks to me, he's like, "What are you doing up here, dude? Like, what are you doing? You're fine. Just stop smoking." He put new blood in me, and it kind of woke me up like, why don't I get that same experience?
Do you smoke cigarettes?
Yeah. Yeah, I smoke up maybe a half a pack a day.
Sometimes with so those big breakthroughs that we want in the psychedelic world, sometimes that's something that you have to like slowly work towards. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm just going to load it up with all of it." When really it's like a self-development thing. Like, how do we develop ourselves to the point where we're kind of like ready for it? Mm-hmm. And like, you're still pretty young at 31. Like, I know my biggest stuff didn't really happen until I was like 33, like personally, like and theoretically we all have a similar arc to our lives.
Yeah. And
maturation happens at like different speeds depending on what you're going through, but it's likely common.
On Tuesday, I paid some or I guess I have this astrologer, and he's like this. He does a lot of people that are.
What's his name?
I don't know. He's anonymous. Yeah, he gave me.
Hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, and basically he talks about how through your birthday, how he could see what kind of cycle you're on.
31, you're on the tail end of what's called the Saturn return, according to astrology, which is like the hardest time most people go through. And it happens again when you're like 66. So, really? Yeah, like it starts at around 28. And you can pause it if you need to.
No, we're good.
So you can kind of like map that for most folks.
How so?
So, I guess I can't really speak too much to it, but there's like a long history of psychedelics and astrology, and it was really big in California at this place Esalen. Have you heard of that? Heady place in Big Sur.
Yeah.
So hippie haven, natural hot springs on the cliffs, and definitely check it out if you get some downtime at some point. It's like the most chill, most magical spot you can imagine.
Oh, it's like kind of like Sedona where it's an energy pass.
Kind of, yeah, but it's just perfect in terms of like people's attitude. Not like I've not actually
Woodstock
Sedona.
is that too. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
There's a couple. It's like a big line,
Ayahuasca
right?
was
It's a big.
Woodstock.
Dude, it's pretty amazing.
But yeah, check out Esalen. But anyway, they were doing astrology and psychedelics, and they did a whole bunch of like mapping of what their birth situation was, and then when they ate the acid or whatever. And this guy Rick Tarnas that paired up with Stan Groff did a lot of that, and it was really interesting to see the results. And they wrote this 900-page book called Cosmos and Psyche, all about it. It's intense. It took me a year to read.
Did you have you done anything like that?
So when I was doing a lot of breath work, I was hosting a lot of workshops and doing it myself. I would actually take down the time, location, and all that, so I could do the chart research later.
Yeah.
I never got around to it. For me, it's really like theoretically interesting, but I don't know what practical applications it has. It's just pretty much buckle down and keep doing the work.
Yeah.
Like, get your shit and do it. Like, whatever that thing is, yoga, meditation, ayahuasca, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And figure out how to do it skillfully and intelligently so you don't end up like burning all your family's bridges and move into the Amazon or something.
Yeah, or burning your bridges.
Yeah, man.
With yourself.
Exactly.
That's more important, I think.
True.
Well,
True.
Like,
our relationship with ourselves should be the biggest priority.
It should be. And we we're so worried about what other people think about us and what they perceive of us, and that we're too afraid to find out what we think about ourselves,
Yeah. So
how are we going to fix that? Psychedelics? Are we going to do psychedelics? Is that going to fix everything or what?
not everything. It's going to fix a bunch, but it's not for everybody. Like, people can definitely get sent to the psych ward. They can definitely, do dangerous shit because they don't have the right training or people around them being safe. People have run into the traffic, and like the 60s thing about jumping out of windows is kind of blown out of proportion, but it for sure was part of it.
Yeah.
But I look forward to seeing how you do it because you're going to be, I think, I hate to put it on you, but a model for a lot of other musicians for like, how do we transition?
Yeah.
Because you had the party and now you're like, what happens after the party?
Mm-hmm. What do you do?
Is it just smoking opium until you die,
or take mushrooms until you die? But
right.
No, that's my biggest. What I need to figure out is like, and how to communicate that with my peers, because people are looking up to us now, and I put it on myself to, ask the deep questions for everyone else. So, well, that's also the thing that's fucking me up because, like, I give this advice and then you forget if you're okay. So, we need to start thinking about ourselves, right, bud? This is the thing. This is what this podcast is about today. We need to stop. We need to do things for us. We need to say no. We need to tell people how we feel, and even if it's going to hurt them. And we need to have a better relationship with our brains, and ask them why we're sad, and ask them why we're happy, and ask them how we could just, we're going to disagree a lot. My soul and my brain, we're going to disagree a lot, but let's just meet in the middle so we can have a relationship, so we could see this life. Because like you said, we don't know what's going to happen when we die, so we might as well enjoy this weird ass hotel and this shitty coffee and my band yelling at me to get the sound check because I'm talking psychedelics. But this stuff's important. I think what you're doing with this psychedelic trip and what I feel like I'm doing with giving musicians a platform to be vulnerable and not just talk about the fucking song 6 solo or whatever. I think we're coming into a consciousness of starting to be awake. It's like a renaissance. And before the Renaissance, it was dark. People were killing themselves, or people were killing each other. I think that shit's going to happen. And we have to realize, take a step back and say, why is this happening? Instead of saying, oh, that guy died from suicide. all right, today's going to be a new day. No, why? Why did he die from suicide? Mm-hmm. What was going on in his head that got him to this point where he felt like nothing else matters? You know, people commit suicides. They know they're going to die. They know they want to die. It's not, you know, it's not accidental. They had it already planned. So how are we going to get people out of that mind state of, you know, life is going to have ups and downs. And when you're down, if you're completely honest with people, like Anders Osborne taught me this, know what it feels like when you're here, when you're up. Because so when you get down in that hole, because eventually you will, everyone gets down in the hole every now and then, you know how to get back up. Sometimes we forget what happiness is for us, and we think everything is just this circle of fucking gloom when you're in that fucking anxiety bubble. You know, when you're in that fucking dark period in your life. So just don't be afraid to talk about the dark shit, and don't be afraid to take psychedelics if that's what it is, or don't be afraid not to take it. If you think that doesn't work for your brain, figure out a way to take meditation, right?
Yeah, float tanks, meditation.
Yeah.
Have you floated yet?
No,
it's tight. There's one right here if you stay for tomorrow, but there's plenty in Denver too. You got some days off, do it.
We should do this again. How about I get you on this show? So I'm gonna be in Denver for like 2 months in
oh shit.
December and January. Why don't you jump on my show and tell all my listeners
100%
about because you're more educated about the psychedelics. I'm just going through observation and, you know,
you do really, a field research.
I do a field research. Yeah, I just fucking take them every day and see. Oh, well, day 47. I'm still feeling goofy here.
The fact that you can podcast that way is great.
Oh, you know, likewise, bro. Fact that you're taking a risk of getting fired to let people know that psychedelics aren't just for recreational; it's for mental health.
The recreational stuff might also be medicinal. People might be self-treating.
Well, yeah,
their
like why do we play basketball? We're not gonna make the NBA. We still love it. You know, we gotta do stuff for that's what we have to do stuff for ourselves. The minute you feel like you're in a hole and you don't like what you're doing, fucking quit. Because what are you gonna do? Another 5 years of feeling like this? Fuck that.
Yeah, man. We all got to figure it out. And what was the line? I had a line getting in the car earlier today. It's like I wanted to say we're all trying our best, but that's not totally true. A lot of us are trying our best. And you know, just keep doing it. If you're getting in disagreements or shit doesn't seem to line up, you just keep trying. It's a process. You're learning.
Like, dude, yeah, it's like your first time. This is your first time going at life.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe we've done it like thousands of times and we just forget. But like, this is our first time. Give yourself a break. You know? It's okay to fuck up. Just know that you didn't like that.
And even millionaires, hedge fund dudes in Manhattan are killing themselves because they can't keep up with their richer millionaire hedge fund friends.
Yeah, it's all fucking same. It's all the same bullshit.
Yeah, just calm down. Maybe smoke some weed. Maybe have a beer.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Like, I'm going to probably take up cigars.
Maybe call your mom and ask her what she was like when she was 20. You know?
That's a great idea.
Maybe ask your dad what his first threesome was. You know, like just like get to know your parents.
Dad, what was your first mushroom session like?
Dude, my mom met my dad. My dad was having a threesome and with her 2 of her friends. And she's like, oh, fuck, I'd never marry Bruce. And she fucking married Bruce. So shout out to my mom, dude, for fucking taking it. Because my dad's a real good heart. He's got a real good heart. You know, he's just, he parties like me. I get it from my dad. And I love my dad. He's a fucking killer guy. He's a workaholic like me. You know, my mom's just, she wants to be nurtured, and my dad wanted to work. And I totally understand why maybe, you know, nowadays it's easier to get in divorces and stuff, or easier to split up, but there's something honorable about sticking with something. And even
you made a promise.
Yeah, but
essentially at a point, like, it's a break-even thing eventually. Like,
well, it's just like there's got to be something keeping the glue together. Even, you know, it's like we're all not going to understand each other. It's like the same thing in politics. But like we got to hear each other out. Once we stop once we stop hearing each other out, I think then we're in trouble. If we just like stick to this, like, this is how I think and that's it, we're gonna be in deeper trouble than we are now. So just be compassionate. God, I sound like my manager now. Be compassionate. Hear out other people.
Andy, stop eating mushrooms on stage.
Yeah. Those voicemails are real. FYI,
Some of them sound so fake.
Dude,
they're so funny.
The ones that are fake are like the girl talk, like or like, but like a lot of all the manager ones are real. 100%. He is a neurotic Jew like me. That's why we get along so well. But
dude, you don't want your mother hearing about this. That shit is so funny.
Oh,
all right, man. So Andy Frasco's World Saving Podcast.
Yeah.
2019 album, Change of Pace.
Yeah.
Andy Frasco and the UN. Any big festivals coming up, or are you just taking a couple months to chill?
I'm taking a couple months off. I'm going on a Laker tour. I'm very excited
Lakers tour.
Yeah, I'm doing
I didn't know people did that.
Dude, Lakers are my fish,
you got
dog.
the gear.
Yeah, dude.
So.
I'm going to like 8 games, going all around the country. I'm going to finally take care of myself. Been working out. It's been helping my anxiety and helping
the gym here is really baller.
Is
by
it?
The way. Yeah.
Fuck, I wish I wasn't so tired.
Right.
Maybe I'll do it before we leave tomorrow. But yeah, I made a new record, so it's coming out in I don't know, January or February. Touring with Humphreys and Pigeons and
are you opening for them in Denver?
Who, Pigeons? Humphrey? No, we're doing a West Coast thing with them.
Cool. Fuck yeah.
And then we're doing Pigeons playing ping pong Halloween. Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then,
your Philly Pigeons playing ping pong Halloween.
Yeah, that'll be
Tight.
fun. Tight. And then we're doing Panic on the Playa with Widespread Panic.
Oh yeah.
But
fun.
Yeah, I'm busy, but we're all busy. So
yeah, fuck yeah.
Follow me wherever. Yeah. Let's just be friends.
Great Instagram. Do it.
You like? Oh, what, the meme one?
Oh, dude, so funny.
Oh man, I've gotten. I mean, yeah, I love doing it. That's what it's like.
We talk about you daily at home. Just so you know,
dude. It's like it's the art of not giving a fuck, like that Madsen book. You know, don't give a fuck, but be generous with how, be the person you want to be. Laugh at the shit you want to laugh about. And if they don't understand it, fuck them.
yeah, there's a lot of self-censorship.
I mean, try. We could try. Have that open communication, and if they don't want to hear you out, maybe they will in a couple years. But keep on trying to be an open book, and that's like the only reason why nowadays, not the only one. It's one of the reasons we're artists. Because what's the point of giving art that you're not completely vulnerable with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So fucking be vulnerable out there, peeps. It's okay. Even if you're having a shitty day, fucking write it down and fucking scream and fucking cry. It's important.
Yeah. Amen.
Thanks for having me on the show, bud.
Dude, super fun. And there you have it, everybody. Andy Frasco of the Andy Frasco World Saving Podcast and Andy Frasco and the UN. He is a hard touring musician, a lot to handle on stage. He's got so much energy, pretty much brings a party everywhere he goes. It's incredible what he's able to do. And take a listen to his music. It's really great. I really like all the songwriting. I've probably seen him live like 6 times now, maybe. Can't wait to see him again. It's the kind of thing where you see it once and you're like, oh man, I think I need to start bringing all my friends to see this guy, because there's no way to really communicate that experience. It's so fun. I took a bunch of video last time because I was a little hurt, but it was like Rage Against the Machine covers, all sorts of different covers, and also a lot of original music. The covers are more like mashups, and they're just tons of fun. And Andy's super interactive with the crowd. The same with the band. All top tier musicians. I think they're all geniuses. I really had a great time at the last show. So again, Andy, thank you for being on the show. Thank you all for listening to the show. I hope you all enjoyed it. I'll see you on the next episode. Before I go, Just a couple words from the sponsors again. Don't forget to check out your free Audible trial, psychedelicstoday.com/welcome. You can help us out a lot by getting a 30-day free trial there, and check out all sorts of books. Terrence McKenna, Michael Pollan, Mike J's Mescaline book that's new is out on there. Plenty of psychedelic books. So check it out. psychedelicstoday.com/welcome for your 30-day free trial to Audible. And again, onnit.com. Use the code PSY at checkout to get 10% off your order. PSY today. Just PSY today at checkout, and you can scoop a discount off of everything from coffee to supplements to shirts to whatever else is available there that isn't fitness equipment. So thank you all for tuning in again to Psychedelics Today. This is Joe Moore signing off from Breckenridge, Colorado. See you in the next episode. Bye-bye.